Happy Sabbath. How are you all? I hope you all had a wonderful week. And tonight we're going to move forward to Genesis chapter 25. But before that, I would like to ask our Lord to bless each one of us, our coming and going, and that He always go before us and watch what is behind us and beside us. Protect us and move us forward, that which will bring us closer to Him. And may our loving Father continue to bless our family with love, joy, and peace in Him. Now let us read verse 1. Abraham married another wife, whose name was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's descendants were the Asherites, Latushites, and Lamites. Midian's sons were Ephah, Epher, Henoch, Abida, and Eldah. These were all descendants of Abraham through Keturah. Abraham gave everything he owned to his son Isaac. But before he died, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them off to a land in the east, away from Isaac. Well, after his dear wife Sarah passed away, and his son Isaac married Rebekah, Abraham took another wife. Her name was Keturah. His new wife comforts him after the death of Sarah, in the same way that Rebekah comforts Isaac. Many Jewish rabbis use this passage here as a lesson for proper conduct. While in this commentary, they said, if a man's wife dies and he has grown children, he should first see that they are married before himself taking a new wife. Well, Abraham and Keturah has 6 sons. According to historian writer Josephus and Cleodemus Malchus, that 2 of Keturah's sons became the Arab tribes who lived south and east of Israel, Syria, and also North Africa. Other scholars think the other sons of Keturah had become dwellers of the region of the Arabian Peninsula because of verse 5, Abraham sent them off to a land in the east. We can see here that the promise of Genesis chapter 17 verse 5 has been realized. Abraham has become the father of many nations. The Israelites, Ishmaelites, Edomites, Amalekites, Kenizzites, Midianites, and Assyrians. And then through his nephew Lot, he was also related to the Moabites and Ammonites. And then this message also mentioned the word concubines in plural form, probably refer to Hagar and Keturah, both of whom had sons with Abraham. And we know that neither of them share the same status with Sarah, who was Abraham's first wife. In verse 5, we also see that Abraham was making clear that Isaac was his sole heir. It was only Isaac and not any of Abraham's other offspring would inherit the promised land. The other sons of Abraham would receive gifts from him before he died. Let's read on. Verse 7. Abraham lived 475 years, and he died at a ripe old age. Having lived a long and satisfying life, he breathed his last and joined his ancestor in death. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zophar the Hittite. This was the field Abraham had purchased from the Hittites, and where he had buried his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who settled near Beer-lahai-roi in the Negev. Abraham lived another 38 years after Sarah's death. it looks like Isaac and Ishmael came together to bury their father with Sarah at the cave of Machpelah. Remember last week we talked about how it was purchased, right? But then in this passage, it didn't mention whether the sons of Keturah were present. And this concludes the narrative of Abraham's life, which started in Genesis chapter 11, verse 27. For completeness of Abraham's descendants, Genesis also gives us additional family details. And this is about Ishmael's descendants. Verse 12. This is the account of the family of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, through Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian servant. Here's a list by the names and clans of Ishmael's descendants. The oldest was Nabaioth, followed by Kedar, Abdiah, Mibsam. This is a very difficult name. It's hard for me to pronounce them all correctly. Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tamar, Jeter, Nephish, and Kedemah. These 12 sons of Ishmael became the founders of 12 tribes named after them, listed according to the places they settled and camped. Ishmael lived for 137 years. Then he breathed his last and joined his ancestor in death. Ishmael's descendants occupied the region from Havilah to Shur, which is east of Egypt in the direction of Ashur. There they lived in open hostility toward all their relatives. Again, we see a list of names. Just now were names of Keturah and Abraham's sons. Here we see the children of Ishmael, Abraham and Hagar's son. So what's the reason for these lists? No doubt this list is proof that God will keep his promise to Abraham. So Abraham did become the father of many people group, of many nations. The list of the sons of Ishmael is made of 12 family groups. Jacob also has 12 sons, who were the father of 12 family groups. So as we know, God did not make his agreement with Ishmael and his children, but God made his agreement or promise, the promise of the land only with children of Isaac. Let's read on, verse 19. This is the account of the family of Isaac, the son of Abraham. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean from Padan Aram, and the sister of Laban, the Aramean. Padan Aram. The roots of Abraham's family go back to this location in northwest Mesopotamia. And we see here that his relative Bethuel was called the Aramean. No wonder later on in Deuteronomy, Abraham was also designated as a wandering Aramean. Abraham died when he was 175. He had Isaac when he was 100. Isaac married at 40 and had children at 60 because his wife was not able to conceive for the longest time, like Sarah. So did Abraham know his grandsons? Yes. Abraham actually died when Jacob and Esau were 15 years old. Now the following verses describe interesting story about Isaac's children. Let me read verse 21. Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was unable to have children. The Lord answered Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in her womb. So she went to ask the Lord about it. Why is this happening to me? She asked. And the Lord told her, the sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rival. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve your younger son. Rebekah is unable to have children. Interesting that in Genesis, there are 3 women who couldn't conceive for a period of time: Sarah, Rebekah, and later Rachel. The pattern of childlessness in Genesis draws attention to how God ensures the continuation of the unique family lineage through which the nation of the earth will be blessed. And God answered Isaac's prayer. Rebekah became pregnant, not for one child, but twins. The twins were fighting in her womb, and Rebekah asked God to explain the struggle that is happening inside her. And she learns that her twins will produce 2 rivaling nations. As you probably observed, from now on, we are just going to talk about the family of Isaac. It concentrates mainly on Isaac's twin sons, highlighting how the younger brother Jacob takes precedence over his older twin brother Esau. And this prediction provides the first indication that the family lineage will continue through Jacob rather than Esau, which is contrary to custom of that time. Well, you might ask, are these words a prediction or predestination? Scholars said both. This is a prediction of what will be, but also an indication of God's divine appointment. The message from God reverses the ancient custom of preference for the firstborn. Traditionally, the younger son should serve the older one, but not so here. Well, God is sovereign over human affairs, and his blessing is not passed along by birth order or other human convention. And this is exactly what it says in Isaiah. It said, I'm God and there's none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times, things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. See, God knows everything from the beginning until the end, even things that hasn't happened yet. And his counsel will stand because he's all wisdom. Well, this passage also talks about the struggle between the unborn baby. And this part helps us to remember that how throughout Genesis started with Cain and Abel, there were conflicts between brothers. And such conflict would threaten the survival of the unique lineage through which the nations will be blessed. And we will see that as we read on. Verse 24. And when the time came to give birth, Rebekah discovered that she did indeed have twins. The first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat. So they named him Esau. And then the other twin was born with his hand grasping Esau's heel. So they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. The names of both Jacob and Esau came from what happened at their birth. The name Jacob is actually a pun on the Hebrew word for grasp. A person who grasped another person by the heel was a way to describe a deceiver. And the pattern of deception reappear. We could see that throughout Jacob's life. And Esau's name means red hair. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. Let's read on. 27. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. Isaac loved Esau because He enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home, but Rebekah loved Jacob. As the two boys grow into manhood, they differ significantly in their interests and character. Esau likes outdoor activities, while Jacob prefers a more domesticated lifestyle. Their differing interests not only cause Isaac and Rebekah to favor different sons, but they set the scene for the events in the episodes that follow. Let's read verse 29. One day when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness, exhausted and hungry. Esau said to Jacob, "I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew." This is how Esau got his other name, Edom, which means red. "All right," Jacob replied, but trade me your rights as the firstborn son." "Look, I'm dying of starvation," said Esau. "What good is my birthright to me now?" But Jacob said, "First, you must swear that your birthright is mine." So Esau swore an oath, thereby selling all his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew. Esau ate the meal, then got up and left. He showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. Question: is it wrong to give up birthright? Not so much wrong as foolish. Esau gave up his inheritance rights as the firstborn son of Isaac. These rights probably involve a greater share of the inheritance and the privileges and responsibilities of family leadership. Esau put immediate gratification before his long-term interests. Although Jacob's desire to buy his brother's birthright demonstrates his grasping nature, deceptiveness, Esau's attitude comes in for criticism. By selling for a bowl of stew, the benefits associated with his firstborn status, Esau displayed contempt. He didn't think it was important for all that God promised to Abraham and his family line. He really slighted this promise. What Esau despises, Jacob desires. And Jacob recognizes the value of the birthright, even though his method of attaining it is hardly commendable. Well, this short episode casts a long shadow over the rest of Jacob-Esau's story, building on the earlier prediction in verse 23 that the older will serve the younger. Jacob and Esau, the strained relationship between the twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah, comes to the forefront in chapter 25 all the way to 36. Even before they were born, the boys were struggling with each other, and we see that. And anticipating now a greater struggle that will eventually result in Jacob fleeing for his life. At the heart of this struggle is the issue of who will be the heir to the promises that God gave to Abraham. While the birthright belongs to Esau, he dismisses it as unimportant. He was willing to sell it to his brother just for a bowl of stew. Jacob, however, is keen to have the benefits that accompany the status of firstborn. So in conclusion, I have the same three questions again. What does this narrative tell us about God's character? Despite the rivalry, favoritism, deception, anger, and discord. The account of Jacob and Esau testifies to a God who continually works within human life. God is present in the lives of these people. God works redemption, forgiveness, and ultimately salvation. Second question, what is natural and common to human nature according to this narrative? Human beings are impatient, cannot wait, and using deception or manipulative scheme to obtain what may be theirs, but prematurely. So let's reflect on the story. Although it was God's plan for Jacob to be heir to succeed Isaac, Rebekah and Jacob used deception and theft to obtain it and put the family in serious jeopardy. Their unethical treatment of husband and brother in order to secure the future and not trusting God resulted in a deep and long-lived alienation in the family. God's covenantal blessings were gifts to be received, not to be grasped. These blessings to be received were meant to bless others. And yet here, the mother and son hoarded it as if they were the sole owner of these blessings. Furthermore, though Jacob had faith, unlike his brother Esau, but he depended on his own abilities to secure the rights he valued. So he took advantage of his hungry older brother with a bowl of lentil soup for the birthright. Both mother and son pursue right ends, but by the wrong means. Jacob deceived his father, and he had to reap the consequence by living a fugitive life. Number 3, the question is, so how shall we live? Again, this is about faith. To the extent we come to believe in God's promises, we will be less inclined toward manipulating circumstances to benefit ourselves. We always need to be aware of how readily we can fool even ourselves about the purity of our motives. Watch our motives.